Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the latest episode of What We Do in the Shadows, Go Flip Yourself. And I really enjoyed this episode mainly because of how it flips at the end. Because we start off and we essentially see that our vampire residents have been picked for the Go Flip Yourself house renovation thing with this twin couple, Bran and Toby, and for the bulk of the episode, it's a riff on like those home improvement shows. And while I was watching it, it wasn't really bad or really kind of good. It was mainly like if you're into the kind of riffs, it worked, but if you'd seen other shows that have already taken riffs on those kind of shows, it really didn't do much or like utilize the cast in any kind of special kind of way that would have given it its own What We Do in the Shadows kind of spin until later. So, but except in certain kind of key instances, like they come in, they're like explaining what they're doing. It even goes into how this episode is introduced. It doesn't do the normal kind of intro with the song and all that. It does it like it's the Go Flip Yourself kind of shit. And in that, I gotta hand it to him for going that in detail of being like, hey, we essentially made this joke about this like home improvement show, and they actually made shit to make it look legit. So they're doing the usual kind of like brothers home improvement back and forth, and they kind of go in, and the thing is they're ambushing the people. However, this does not work in Toby's favor as Nadja goes down and fucking kills his ass. And it's funny because we see this kind of shit happening in the background, and Bran is like accosted by Laszlo, and Laszlo's just kind of geeking out, being like, yeah, I like the show and everything, and you guys are fucking awesome. As we see Nadja training the dude in the background, as the camera sometimes zooms in just enough to give us at least a little bit more closer detail on what's going on, and then starts getting into kind of the crux of it. We see that Bran thinks that Toby is ill, while in the background, Guillermo is pretty much burying his fucking body, and that Nadja was doing this complex fucking thing of like trying to hypnotize the crew and everybody that like details everything within the kind of show. It's like, this is a pretty big problem that they could have, but we see them doing their kind of shit, and however, it kind of becomes a moot point at the end. But it's interesting to see how they're trying to get out of this situation, and that at least the writers and everybody involved treats it like a serious, like, shit, I killed somebody on live TV. I'm gonna have to try and do this hypnosis kind of thing. Which they need to think about a little bit more, because their hypnosis doesn't work on Guillermo. There's got to be other people out there. Now, granted, it could potentially work on most, if not a good portion of people, but once you start getting a big enough sample size, the Guillermo outliers could potentially be vastly bigger a portion of that sample than you would statistically believe. Now, granted, he's also got the Van Helsing DNA and everything that factors into it, but you kind of get what I mean. So, Bran pretty much continues on the show like his brother is just sick, and we start seeing them trying to do their kind of things. We see that he was going to do like a newlyweds kind of thing for Nandor and Marwa, and his whole little shtick is he's really getting tired that Marwa is really into his shit, and instead tries to go for a man cave route. However, Marwa throughout the episode pretty much jacks his man cave from him, and that's kind of funny because she likes what he likes, and she likes the kind of room, so she fucking takes it. We see that they try and like spruce up the kitchen, change up Laszlo and Nadja's room into more of a closet thing for Nadja's shoes and all that kind of shit. And they're also trying to Laszlo's just into it because he's into the show fucking deep. And Nadja at first is like, I don't give a shit about this. And then Bran's like, oh, we're going to do this. We're going to change it like this, so that way you got all this natural sunlight and everything. And Guillermo's like, no, please don't fucking do that. Like, him in the background being like, please, dear God, don't. Granted, that is Guillermo's stick, but seeing them be like, oh, Nadja got enthralled by a golden toilet, even though she doesn't fucking shit. She's like, no, I want the golden toilet. it was a kind of weird, out there kind of thing that she kind of hooked in on, but it doesn't stay around long enough. They still create kind of like conflict and tension because we see that Bran is talking about like permits and shit, but we see that he's actually talking to Guillermo, and then instead introduces this thing of like Guillermo wants an actual fucking room and no sewage and shit. We also see Colin a little bit throughout this episode, but not much. However, I'm not that against it because he was heavily utilized in the previous episode, and we're kind of alright. Like, okay, I understand that they gotta watch out the moderation of utilizing their little kid actors to put fucking Colin's head on. So, they had to take away the golden toilet and everything like that, not just pissed off about that, but then Guillermo's like, yeah, I'm getting a room. I'm like, damn, you're being sneaky on this shit, Guillermo, like, go for it. But then they start bringing up other stuff. It's like, yeah, we're going to resod the grass and everything like that. It's like, you're going to dig up the backyard. And Guillermo's the only one that's thinking about the consequences and ramifications of them finding dead fucking bodies in the backyard. Where he's talking about this, and then Guillermo just, like, bucks out of the shot, bucks back in with a shovel, and goes outside to pretty much re-exhume the dead bodies to kind of deal with it. However, they don't really do much with that to see any kind of consequences on that, which I would prefer them to do, but however, that wasn't the punchline of what's going on. So we see them kind of going through. We see that the man cave pretty much works out. We see that Colin helps out with knocking down holes in walls, same as Guillermo, and Laszlo just goes fucking punchy to dude out, punchy today. Nadja fucking tanks out one of these like little island things with like a sledgehammer and goes, yeah! And they're trying to pretty much like make sure everything works out. However, we get into it and they do the kind of reveal, and like they did really nothing to the house. They just essentially went to like a home goods store and got all this stuff and pretty much put shit in the house. And they're looking through, it's like the tree's still here, their hole's still there. By the way, we do get stuff on the raccoons later at the end, which works out pretty well. And they're like going through, it's like this is pretty much the same, except for like the kind of man cave we go into, the whole thing with the closet. And the thing is, Laszlo had been talking to Bran about like hats and everything like that, and then he's going in and he's like, where the fuck's the witch's hat? And then Bran puts it on and is like, aha! Yes! Finally! And this is where we get the whole kind of flip with the whole thing. It was Simon the Devious, and the whole thing with Go Flip Yourself was an orchestrated, petty fucking thing for him to get the fucking witch's hat back. And up until this point, I've been like, okay, they're... Like, I didn't think it was, like, a horrible episode or, like, their worst episode. It was like, okay, this is a good idea. None of it's getting to, like, super fucking funny levels for me, but neither is it just kind of nauseating and just like, oh god, this joke's going on too long. This was like, we had seen Laszlo being so into the show, and we find out that it was Simon, this petty fucking narcissistic asshole, created a television show, got like, oh, what about Toby? He took a dude who had a family, he paid for his education to become an architect and everything, and Guillermo's just like, why didn't you just get an architect? He's like, I don't know, he just fucking did it. He invested time, money. We also see him bring out his whole crew. That joke kind of went on a little bit too long. He's like, okay, all the people, all right. And he did this to get the hat back. And Laszlo's like, yeah, I really was into the episode, like, into this show and everything. He's like, wow. And he's like taken aback by that. He's like, all right, but I fucking won. I got the hat. And they're all just like, oh shit, fuck this, man. It's nuts. It's like, so we're screwed, aren't we? It's like, we did this to try and get this sorted out and get everything kind of fixed, but it's like, oh, alright. And I don't even know what their kind of budget thing was. It's like, where did this money come from? Did they just pay him to essentially come and steal their fucking hat? And it was just great. It's like, there's gotta be easier ways to fucking do this. And he just went about this in this methodical, planned out fucking thing. And I'm just like, goddamn, that's nuts as shit. So then he pretty much bucks out. He's like, yeah, you'll see this in about like 2 years. And it's like, yeah, that tracks. Because of how long it would take and everything like that. It's like, Guillermo's like, but you're here. He's like, yeah, but I completed my objective. But the thing is, he still continues to do the show after, as we see a thing pretty much at the stinger at the end. So everybody pretty much bucks it. He tries to fly out but hits a thing because, of course, the fucking hat's cursed. But then he gets out and everything, and we get like Elvis vampire and all that kind of shit. And they're just like pissed off at the camera crew. It's like, listen, we gotta finish out the credit bump so that way you get paid. It's like, we're getting paid for this? It's like, yeah, we've got all this kind of shit. It kind of sucks. We got fucked over. And, yeah, the raccoons are still, like, in here and having sex. And then we pan down and we see the fucking raccoons fucking under the goddamn chair and everything. I'm like, oh, shit. And then we also see that the dude, he continues to be Bran, but he's now got the witch's hat on and doing the show. But, of course, it's cursed. He's like, talking to this other couple, is like, hey, why don't you use this new gas stove to make your world famous spaghetti? Turns it on, the house fucking blows up, you see the fucking hat buck out of the shot. It just it really saved it for me. It's like, oh shit. And then you're thinking, all throughout this season, all this time, he made this show to do this, and it's just, it saved it for me. It's like, alright, that punchline, that joke, that worked, and it was worth it. And I just thought it was fucking hilarious to see the lengths that this dude would go to get this stupid cursed hat back. And the thing is, we even see that our resident vampires notice that certain things kind of get a little bit better. It's like, yeah, it was cursed, so the sewage kind of went away a little bit. Things kind of worked out a little bit. Not that, like, everything magically kind of fixed itself, but they're like, yeah, okay. And Laszlo's still kind of into this show to a degree, even though it kind of fucked him over, which is an interesting kind of way to take it, in that, yeah, he likes the hat, but he still's like, yeah, I get enjoyment out of this show. I went in, like, okay, as I'm watching the episode, I'm like, this will be a mid one, alright, but they really fucking nailed it for me with that, and I get it if that's not, if that doesn't work out for everybody. Like, sometimes a punchline doesn't land for you, and you're like, this whole thing was just to get a stupid hat back? That's kind of fucking stupid, and I get that, and that's the whole kind of point of it, the stupidity, plus how smart and convoluted it gets, kind of marries together, and you're like, dude, there are easier, better ways to have done this shit, and wow, just the time, the energy, the money invested into this, it's just nuts. For this cursed hat that fucking blows you up at the end, it's just petty people doing stupid stuff. That's why I enjoyed it. I'm just like, okay, this works, and it fits this character profile, it fits the reactions that everybody pretty much kind of had to it, and we're like, alright, let's kind of see where the rest of the season goes with this. I'm like, alright, I was not expecting that with the Go Flip Yourself. I did not expect them to go that far to essentially create another television show and then kind of execute just to make kind of fun of it, and then kind of turn it like this and actually have it make sense and be a pretty funny kind of punchline that I enjoyed. So those are my opinions on the episode. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.